Gotta have the hands up for this one. Boom. Welcome, everyone. It is I, Coach K, and I am joined by my co-host, Jonathan Moss, JMO, and we are thrilled to have Neil on with us today for a special guest for our podcast, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and other places, and just really excited to be here. So today's topic is AI SDRs. Is it BS? Is it bull crap? Or is there things working? And we're looking around the communities in Pavilion and other places, asking people like who's working with AI SDRs. And Neil talked to JMO about it. I'm like, we got to pick on Neil. So super excited to have you, Neil. How are you, my man?
I'm good. Everyone picks on me, so join the club. It's all good. Thanks for having me, guys. It's always fun to chat with you guys.
Well, you're the man, the myth, the legend, right? I mean, there's nothing that you don't do. You're everywhere, so we got to pick on you a little bit.
I think I'm one of those three things. I'm not sure about the other two.
Yeah. You're someone who I can honestly say that anyone I've talked to who knows you is respected voice in the space, because you have a very blunt opinion on a lot of things, which I think is needed, because you don't do BS. You kind of cut through the BS, which is why we wanted to have you get some real talk here, But before we dive in, a couple of things I want to do. If someone is listening does not know who we are, the AI Business Network is all about how do we use AI from a strategic lens across the business org, from finance to HR to revenue to whatever, because JMO and I find ourselves talking literally the same things to different people all the time. And so we made this to kind of be a both media content and hopefully some help around this whole topic of how to use AI strategically. So before we get into the thing, what I'd love to do, Neil, is I'd love to have you do a quick intro on you and just kind of like your background. What do you do and why you're even in the AI SDR world at all? And
thank you. And again, thanks for having me, guys. Really quick, and I appreciate the compliment, I guess, of how blunt I am. I am direct. I try to be no kind of BS. I mean, maybe it's because I'm getting older, but there's no time for bullshit and smoke and mirrors. Just let's be honest and direct with each other and authentic, and that should help us all be more effective, as opposed to all this other crap that goes on sometimes that we see, especially sadly on LinkedIn at times. That's kind of who I am. I do a couple things really quick. I run my own a GTM advisory. I'm a GTM operator called Weitzman GTM. I do fractional CRO work. I love it. It's kind of my dream career and job. Won't go into details on that, but absolutely love my career. And I get the luxury and the honor of working with a lot of different, generally early stage, mid-sized companies where I get to learn a lot. And I get to try and test a lot of different things like AI SDR tools and other products and services. I would suggest I probably get the luxury of trying more things than the average person, because I'm working with many different organizations, which is awesome. So I enjoy it and I learn a ton, and I form opinion, sometimes right, sometimes wrong. But back to the blunt thing, I love talking about them. So,
but I think
I'll leave it there.
I think that's important though, and that's what I really just want to hit on that, is that I think we're all in this world, and this is why we wanted to really again get your opinion in things, is because we're all testing things and experimenting with things, and people need to understand what's real and what's not. Again, the no BS approach. So there's stuff that works, there's stuff that doesn't, and here's what happens when it does work, and here's what happens when it doesn't. So I really appreciate your, you being on the forefront of experimenting, but then also sharing and helping other people, because it does help a lot.
Yeah, no, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Jay Moss, your sound just went off and on a little bit there. I don't know if you're having some issues, but I heard most of that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. So Neil, let's kind of start off. I know we don't want to talk about your specific customers, so I'm not asking that, but I would love to know, like, let's kind of start with the tech first. What have you actually played with? Is there any companies you want to point out? And then I really want to dig into, like you said before the call, you said that you've seen it work well, you've seen it not work well. Like, what's the differences? So tell me, let's start with the tech.
Sure.
What companies have you used first, and let's go from there.
Yeah, so I have played with myself one primary tool called AI SDR, conveniently enough, AISDR.com.
Right.
Maybe the best one to talk about, because it's named the category, in which, of course, Yuri, the CEO, is maybe an absolute genius to call his company that. So it works very well for him, I know. But so that's the primary tool I have played with, pressed the buttons, and worked with. Both with their whole team and with my clients. So, a lot of different experiences with that tool. I have not played with any tool myself other than that, but spoken to dozens of people about other products and services and the whole space in general. But that is the one where most of my opinion, I guess, comes from. And I think my opinion is based less on a particular tool and more about the concept of using AI for outreach and cold emails, etc., as opposed to picking on one particular tool.
Yeah.
Just
Let's
and that's the tool I'm using.
Yeah, let's define AI SDR a little bit more so people can understand it. Because, like, for example, it's illegal to be able to proactively send an AI vocalized person to send out to you can't call people unless they opt into things, right? So how would you categorize or describe what the crap is in an SDR? Is it literally replacing an SDR, or is it more of like just the emailing and automation? Like, what's the difference?
Well, I think it could vary. I think
Yeah.
this is what we all get caught up in is we say an AI, AI cold email system, AI SDR, AI BDR, whatever you want to call it, everyone automatically starts thinking X, whatever their experience or opinion is of it. And the reality is these tools or many of them do a ton of different things, right?
Yeah.
Again, AISDR.com can be used in like 15 different ways. It's not all for just replacing a BDR human and sending out 1,000 freaking cold spam emails. Frankly, that's the wrong way to do it, in my opinion. But that's what a lot of people think of automatically when they say those words. So I mean, you got to think about what is the capability of the technology and how can I leverage that for my particular business case or use case, and does it help me improve the problem I'm having in a way that is better than just using a human independently alone? And I would suggest in many cases the answer might be yes, maybe, but we're crazy not to ask that question and test it to see if it can, because that's what our job is to try to improve. And how do we improve if we just close our eyes and say, no, they're stupid, let's not try them?
Yeah, I think. Oh, good.
No, go ahead, JMO. I've been talking a lot. Your turn.
Yeah, no. So I think that you mentioned a couple of very important points that I think is critical. Right? It's really one, having a curiosity enough to ask the question of can we do this better, and let's do some experimentation and figure out, can we do this better, more efficient. You're analyzing the result and optimizing. Okay, does this help me? Does this help me replace? Does this help me augment? What does this actually help me do? And it's a journey, and it's not this. One thing again you mentioned, I'll come back to, is that it's not just, hey, I'm going to slap this AI technology on a bad. I don't have my foundational data. I don't have my ICP persona figured out. I don't have my messaging fine tuned. But you know what? I'm just going to do AI, and it's going to fix all those problems for me. That's not really what happens here, right? It's not a silver bullet, but you articulated very well of like, hey, I'm trying to figure out, does it help me in this use case? Does it help me do this or that? And I think that's a very important point that people have to remember. And I think, curious on your opinion here, I think the definition of what it can do, because it's so broad, it can do a lot of different things, but also the people that are just looking at it and implementing it as just this magical wand that all of a sudden just solves all my issues is why a lot of times it's getting a bad rap. So so curious, I would love to hear, what were some of the successes and failures that you and your companies learned through like the implementation of where you focused, where you pointed the technology, and what kind of came out of that?
Yeah, big, deep question. I'll talk as much as I can about the clients and industries without going too deep on them, they're not my companies. I need to be respectful of that. However, I guess a couple things. One, and I agree with everything you're saying, Jonathan, is, it's not a magic button. I'm going to have the exact same failure if I haven't done the core fundamentals of building my outbound process, the messaging to a certain degree, the ICP, the data, all that is so effing important. I'm going to fail if I just throw AI on top of that, the same way I'm going to fail as if I just hire another BDR, another human AE, and think they're going to be great
Right.
without those fundamentals in place. There is no difference there. So we all agree that fundamentals, data, messaging, core, the problem you're solving, all these things are fundamental to success. I don't care what tool, technology, or humans you use. So that's number one. We all agree. Two, using a tool, technology, AI SDRs, call it whatever anyone wants to call it, is not a magic button. There's no easy button. I wish there was. We all wish there was. I mean, people like me wish I had a freaking magic button. I could come in and solve your freaking problem by pressing a button and pay me a lot of money. That would be amazing. But it's actually a hell of a lot of work. And it might be even more work bringing in a tool like AI SDR or any of them and getting it set up properly for success than just hiring an awesome human BDR with a lot of experience who can just, be trained on the product and knows what to do and gets going. It may be even harder to get the tool set up properly to work ongoing. The point is that if you can do that and can make it work, it could be potentially way more efficient in the long term by doing it. But yes, it's a lot of work. And Jason Lemkin, if you didn't see, did a post and has a blog post on this, I think a day or two ago,
Right.
about using, I don't know what tool he was using. I forget the exact tool, but it doesn't matter. He was using something. And he spoke a lot in this blog post and LinkedIn post about all the success they've had. Highly recommend you guys check it out. It's exactly what we're talking about here. And he says, and the same thing I'll say is, they had to put a shit ton of effort into doing it. They meet every day. I forget how many minutes he said, but they had like daily meetings to say what's working, what's not, how do we optimize it, have we trained it properly, etc. And so all that work does need to go into it, from the initial training, for lack of a better word, of the tool and the AI, to the ongoing optimization, management. Are we comfortable? It's not perfect. Just like my human employee is not perfect, just like I'm not perfect, neither is the tool. None of it is. So I've got to keep an eye on it. I've got to coach it, if you will, and make sure the messages it's sending out are good messages. And if they're not, and I don't love them, how do I fix that? How do I improve that? Unfortunately, I have some human employees that have some messaging that I don't love, right? That's okay. That's a process. It's like me coaching them and saying, here's what I think might work better, or looking at the results because maybe I'm wrong. But all of this is just a process of ongoing.
Right.
There is no easy button, there isn't, but I'll shut up. I talk a lot. Keep going.
No, you're good. Do you feel like people on the receiving end, do you feel like people care if it's an AI SDR or a human, or they more care about, is it relevant? Can it help me? I mean, what do you think the receiving end is like?
I think if the royal we who are running a tool like this do it right, it's often or should be very hard to tell in the first place. Now, we're all different. Some of us might tell better, others, sometimes there's signals and tricks and things. And some people maybe like you, Coach K, may say, I can tell an AI email from I don't care what you do, I can tell. Maybe you can. But the point is, you're trying to make it so it is as human-like as absolutely possible. That said, I can't answer for everyone, of course. And I do believe, depending who you are, you may say, if I can tell it's an AI email, F that, I'm never going to respond, no matter what it says, or not. But I think that's changing. I think we all agree we're going through an incredible transition and evolution and learning. We've learned more in the last 6 months on this topic than the last 10 years combined. And so 6 months from now, I don't know, guys. I think we're going to rarely have a choice whether we like it or not. It's just going to be what's happening.
It's just me there,
So some people love it, some hate it, some can't even tell. I don't really worry too much about that because I'm not replacing, personally, everything. I'm not replacing humans with AI fully in any way, shape, or form. But I got to say, I think it's going to happen at some point that whether we like it or not, that's the way the world's going. Because money talks at the end of the day.
Yeah, this is interesting because we have a lot of debates on this topic. Before we get into that, though, I think
Yeah.
just to just kind of hit on your point, though. I think like and again, we have this, we're in it, right? So I'm okay talking to AI because honestly, it's quicker, it's more knowledgeable in many scenarios. But then the way we set it up is like if I want to speak to a person, I still have that option. Like, so I have some of these implemented, right? And it's like, if you want to talk to somebody, that's okay. Please do. But also I would just say we've made the B2B selling journey so difficult and with
Yeah.
so many friction points and things, so much time delay, or I leave a conversation and I don't get my questions answered and then I have to wait on a follow-up. It's riddled with so many experience issues from the buyer perspective that I think this solves a lot. And to your point, I think people are just going to become more and more accustomed to it as they're using ChatGPT or others, et cetera. So I do think we're going through that kind of journey
and
right
you're
now.
getting into, Jonathan, not just a cold outbound email, of course. You mentioned a couple things there that are alluding to things beyond the initial email, right? Getting questions answered and back and forth. And I agree. I mean, I like the ability, so cold email is one thing, but again, back to there's different use cases. I love the idea of allowing my prospect to have a choice, right?
Yeah.
If you want to just have a few questions and talk to my AI and you prefer to do that because it's quick and easy and immediate and right freaking there and you don't need to wait for me to respond, why not allow them that choice as long as you've set it up right and it's working well? But if there's a simple, no, I don't want to talk to AI, call me back, great, right? Let them choose. It's like the old, I'm an old man, choose your adventure books. I don't know if you remember those.
Oh, yeah.
It's like choose your adventure. It's like you decide the way that works for you to hopefully be a buyer, that is going to be most effective for you. And I'm going to give you the options and be as responsive as absolutely possible. We've all had experiences where, you're trying to talk to someone and they don't get back to you for 2 days or 3 days, or it's a shitty answer. There's all kinds of use cases where AI clearly can be quicker, better, faster, and more effective. And there's also use cases where humans make a lot more freaking sense.
Yeah. So
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Just to finish this out. Yeah. So I agree, and I think like we look at it on this scenario. I think this is one of the most powerful. I think everyone focuses on, the kind of outbound, like this, and sure, to your point, that's one use case, but there's other use cases that an SDR or others would have. And if you think about the SDR in a sense, it's the least trained employee about your value proposition, your product, sales skills, answering questions, solutions engineering, and understanding technical feasibilities if that is something that your product has. And now if you combine all of that into this SDR AI, it has a lot of those answers for you, and it's on all the time, right? So if me, a lot of times, like Coach here, we don't get time to think or do a lot of things till the weekends because we're so busy during the week. It's like maybe that's when I want to actually have a conversation, but I can't do that if I'm just relying on a person because they're off, right? They're not going to respond to me. So having that kind of omni-channel, if you will, ability to connect to who I want to when, I think is very valuable and important. Sorry, Coach, just want to finish that point off.
No, I love it. I want to dig in before we run out of time of getting hopefully some super tactical, give us some, I guess, give us some free consulting, but generally saying like what, for someone who's like said, I've tried this like a year ago and obviously tech is advanced, or I've never done this before. What are the things you tell your clients to do, which is probably, I'm going to take a wild guess, has nothing to do with AI, but what should be done to be ready to use ASDR category of some kind? And then, what do you tell people to do?
So I'll get, I see Neil Fisher's question here, which is related to what you're saying there, Coach K, as well. So a couple things, and I'll speak about some examples I've had. So I have one client who has been using it and it has been working. I have another client where we're struggling to make it work. And the latter, I don't know the answer yet. It's a specific industry. It's a little more niche, if you will. We haven't had a lot of great success getting responses to the AI outbound. A couple little bits here and there, but definitely nothing that I would consider a success. But but we still believe on that, even though you might say that's a failure if you have not booked a meeting from the AI SDR. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as, wow, we have gotten and again, we're not burning spam TAM here. We're not sending spam emails to millions of people. We have a very targeted list we're working on that we believe is the right people, right personas, right account. So we're very specific about the data we allow the system to go after, if you will. It's not like look for anyone with a title ABC and just send it out.
Right.
And so we believe there's a benefit there. And someone might kill me for saying this. It's almost like a awareness marketing benefit. If I can have an AI tool send out emails to the right people in almost like a nurture way, not with a book a meeting now type of message, but like a, hey, we're here if you're interested, here's a little bit about us, do you have this problem, with soft messaging, then it might be helping me in a multi-channel approach. Someone may not respond to that AI email, but guess what? My inbound forms are up. I'm getting more action on LinkedIn. People are checking us out more. It's hard to do this attribution, but I feel like it's still helping overall, even though I might not be able to directly correlate the AI email to a response. And so for the price I'm paying for some of these tools, the benefit of that voice getting out there more in that way, I think is beneficial as well. On the positive side, or more positive side, because I do think that's positive, I have another client who is using it and is getting some responses, right? It's a client that has a small number of AEs, right? They have very few people that are out on the street or on their computers and getting the word out there and talking to people. And hiring a human is really expensive and really hard. And so for a fraction of the cost, we have another quote unquote person, AI, that is getting our voice out there, which is saying things. We can't afford for this particular client 3 more salespeople, but we can afford $1,000 a month to test something to see if it can get our voice out there a bit more. And we're seeing some positive responses. People are responding. So, people are saying, yeah, tell me more. And then our human phones them up and talks to them, right? So it prioritizes that human's time because he doesn't have unlimited hours. We don't have 50 salespeople. So again, that particular use case, especially when you have a really small team, to me makes real obvious sense, right? You might not be able to afford hiring $300,000 AEs or whatever, but you can afford $1,000 to test and learn and see if it makes some results to enhance that AE's pipeline by bringing them in some warm leads. They're warm once they respond. So great success on examples like that. And like I said, even the ones where I don't have quote unquote direct correlation, I still think for the cost investment and effort, there is great learning and great overall improvement for the company.
And I think it's a great point because look, there's things that are working against companies. One is capital, right? It's more expensive. It's not as cheap as it was. So you can't go hire a bunch of people. And the thing that startups that ends up killing startups, I mean, you advise a lot of them, is not necessarily product, because they usually have a good product that's solving a problem. They're trying to find a product market fit, but it's more distribution. How do I get that product out there into the right people's hands before I run out of capital and money, right? And so these tools are now helping those companies get in front of, and I love your approach as far as what you said, the awareness side, because you could think about this as also a marketing tool. It's just an email campaign. It's just another view of an email campaign for nurture.
Yep.
But it's more so like talking about the problem or educating your ICP or persona on things or whatever it may be, and then turn it. So I love that. What was one of the you've talked a lot about the things to do right. Was there any kind of failures that you had that you're like, hey, looking back, this is the one thing I would have, or I did change the next time, or a learning lesson for people to make sure that they don't do or stay away from as they're implementing this technology?
Yeah, there is one for me. I'm going to say it's a matter of opinion as opposed to a right or wrong necessarily, because everyone has their own opinion. I'm very particular about how people should engage on LinkedIn versus email. We should always be non-pitchy. We should always be, very relationship based, in my opinion. However, LinkedIn for me, when you send a message to someone, is a complete no-no for like cold email type of messages in my LinkedIn DMs. That's just my opinion. I know people out there will argue, no, it works, you should do it. I hate it. I just don't love it. And my experience so far with with what I've heard and my own experience with AI tools, I'm not loving the AI LinkedIn messaging that comes from the tools because of that. Again, my opinion. So if I run it, I turn off any messaging, and I might allow my AE to use the AI LinkedIn Connect potentially, but not any AI generated messaging on LinkedIn. And again, it depends on the tool. Some tools are email only, some are multi-channel, some do LinkedIn. So it depends what you're using. But I haven't gotten comfortable with, I guess, the AI messaging on LinkedIn in any way, shape, or form personally.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is that I get a lot of, I mean, I'm sure we all do. We get a lot of crap on LinkedIn and email and that kind of stuff, And you said earlier, I could probably tell if there's an AI written one. I can tell when it's blatantly AI, and you can tell that someone has no idea what they're doing. But there's been a few that I've gotten where I responded back saying, "Was this AI? Or was this a human?" And the person came back and said, "No, this is AI." I'm like, "Okay, that's a good message." Like, I don't mind, honestly. Personally, I don't care if it's AI. I mean, I'm very AI forward, but I don't care as long as it's relevant and it can help me. I don't care if it's a human or AI, which maybe I shouldn't say that out loud, but I don't care, So I guess the question would be is, as you look forward to the future, where is that balance between where do you see the world of, like, instead of having 30 SDRs, it becomes one SDR that's running a bajillion different SDRs that are kind of managing the process, or what do you see the future look like?
Oh gosh. I believe that no matter what any of us want and have personal opinions, is we are moving down a path where, and I think we've seen it a little bit. I know everyone will say prove it, but I just look at the news and see people losing their jobs and big companies going in this direction on lots of different use cases. But from a pure sales perspective, I believe there's going to be a future where your AI sends a message to my email box, which is AI managed.
Right.
I don't even fricking see the email. My AI does. My AI responds and tells your AI that no, F off, or no, there is a potential fit, because my AI knows exactly what I'm looking for because I've told it.
Right.
And maybe every day my AI says, Neil, here's the 3 things to pay attention to. Everything else you can ignore. And I think that's the world we're going. There's going to be an AI seller, an AI buyer. And none of us know if it's 2 years from now or 20 years from now, and how quick we're going to get there. But Jesus, man, look at the last 6 months and how far we've come and how quickly.
Oh, no.
So, and I'm not saying I love that. I mean, that scares the shit out of me. But I don't know we're going to have a choice, because at the end of the day, if I'm a CFO of a company and I say, geez, I'm making up numbers here, I'm spending $50 million on my sales force, and there's this thing over here that might be able to allow me to reduce the 50 to 5 and still get the same result. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm sure as shit going to tell my team to test that out and try it and see if it works. Because these companies, especially the big ones that are public, have investors and things they report on, and they got to do this.
One follow-up question to this before we end, because I know we got to go, is, do you think this is for low ACV buying products, or would you actually trust, if you were going to spend $50K, $100K, $1 million deals, would you let in the future AI do that for you?
I think the more complex and the larger and the more complex, the less I trust the AI today, for sure. Again, don't know if that's going to be the same as we continue here. But yeah, I guess that would just be like, the smaller and the quicker and the easier, the more likely it is that the AI can nail it. And the more likely, or the more it would make sense, because I've got a small ACV. I've got to find ways to be more efficient. Whereas, if I'm selling $1 million product, it probably makes a lot more sense to have someone who I can afford, that's I know is fantastic, and I'm not testing because they've proven they can be successful many times over. But we all know there's sadly, there's great salespeople and there's not so great salespeople. And so the not so great ones have to be careful because they're going to be replaced.
Hey, Neil, before we, so I'm going to say one thing and I'll let John finish up. How can people find you, Neil?
WeitzmanGTM.com is my company website, and I spend, as some of you know, way too much time on LinkedIn, which I love. So just follow me on LinkedIn or come DM me, and I'd love to chat.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure y'all look Neil up on LinkedIn or any other place that he is. And again, appreciate all your insights. Appreciate your no BS. Again, hence the title. You know, that was the first thing I thought about when writing this title with you. So the no BS, and appreciate you sharing all your learnings to everyone, because it's the more and more people that do that, the better. So again, thanks for your time for coming on. I appreciate all of our listeners. Thanks for making us one of the top podcast. And well, again, AIBusinessNetwork.ai. Come take a look if you need help along your AI journey from a strategic landscape and any business problem that you have. We're here to help. Again, thanks, Neil, for your time, and appreciate it. See y'all next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, you guys. Wait for it. And we're, I think, out.
Still says live.
I know, I'm pushing the end.